I was really looking forward to sinking my teeth into a brand new farming sim, and Sugardew Island seemed like it would be the perfect game to scratch that itch. But after spending over 10 hours in the game, I've realized this one is not for me. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you everything you need to know before you buy, including the good and obviously the not so good. As always, I try and keep my reviews honest and fair, and this video hasn't been sponsored, but full disclosure, I did get an early copy of the game to check out so I could do this review for you. If you want more content like this, don't forget to like and also subscribe. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the review, here are some key pieces of info that you might want to know about Sugardew Island. It is, of course, a farming game where you can grow crops, look after animals, and also run a farm shop, which was a key standout feature for me, which made me excited for the game. The game releases today on the 7th of March, and it will be available on the Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, and of course PC, which is where I've played the game. The developers have said that the game can be completed in approximately 12 to 25 hours of gameplay, and the price point without any discount is $16.99 US, which you might think does sound fair, but hold your thoughts on that for now. So that's the businessy stuff out of the way. Let's get into the game, and straight away you are thrown into character customization. There isn't a lot of options here, so don't expect bells and whistles. Some of the things were a little bit confusing, as the plats were cool plats, but I definitely did not see a plat here. Perhaps this was a bad translation. In the end, the character did turn out pretty cute. It's definitely nothing groundbreaking, and it does feel like I've kind of seen this before, but I did like the hat and kind of the outfit, so I'm not mad about that. I did also appreciate the warnings that told you straight away that you can change your character's appearance later, so you don't have to be too hung up on this, but you can't change your name, and it's nice that they added that in as well. With your character ready, we were thrown into a cutscene, and the art style here looked very familiar. If you have played Faith Farm, it is very, very reminiscent of the intro. But aside from that, it did kind of set up the story as to how we actually ended up here and the lore about the island, which was quite nice. I was then shipwrecked onto the island and awakened by one of the very few NPCs that's in the game. This is Tom T, the traveler trader, who, spoiler, doesn't actually do that much traveling by the looks of things. I was then kindly given an abandoned house and farm. Squatters' rights must apply on Sugardew Island, and Tom T very kindly gifted us a shop. I was then introduced to the harmony tree, which is not in its best shape and is slightly overgrown with thorns. The only way to remove the thorns is by earning harmony, and to earn harmony you must sell people things, which actually they kind of go with the guise of helping people out. It's just in a very capitalist manner, I guess. The harmony element is one of the key flaws in this game, and I will explain more about that in just a moment. By completing these quests, you can actually unlock new areas, and within these small spaces, there are actually animals which you can pet, and these animals give you free seeds. I will never say no to a freebie, but there honestly wasn't all that much going on here. They could have really enhanced these areas, done a little bit more with them, and kind of made better rewards. It wasn't really worth my time every single day going and petting these animals just to get a couple free seeds, when I could quite easily buy them from the trader and it would be a lot quicker. Talking of seeds, that does bring us nicely onto the farming, because obviously we need things to sell in our shop. The mechanics of the farming are pretty straightforward. You plant, you water, and then you harvest. I did enjoy the fact that by default you could place fertilizer and sow seeds in a 3x3 formation, and this did help speed up the process. However, the watering did take a significant amount of time. The first upgrade on the watering can allows you to do a row of 3, but then the second upgrade is very expensive, and it is required to be unlocked quite far along in the harmony tree, making it quite a big grind to get. This is frustrating because there are so many aspects of this game that require crops, including feeding your animals. You're required to give them wheat every day, crafting things for energy. There's special energy bars, so if you want more energy in the game, you're going to need to use your crops to do that. And then obviously selling things in the store, and there is also a bulletin board as well that requires crops. Because of the requirement of crops, I did expand my area pretty quickly, and then I had a lot to do. So this used up a lot of energy to kind of keep this watered every day. I did find the water fertilizer was quite good because this allows it to stay watered for a few days, but in the end I found it hard to keep up with because you were relying on weeds to spawn to craft the fertilizer. You can buy it, but then obviously that gets expensive and we're trying to save our money. Because of this, I was very grateful when I got 3 rainy days in a row. I think some form of miracle happened. You are able to purchase animals, and the animals are pretty cute. There is also an option for a cat, and if you're a dog person, you can also get a dog, and you can increase your heart level with them. And if you increase your heart level, some of them will also drop animal products, and these even had like little goat faces on, which was kind of cute. I did also enjoy the way that you feed animals, as this can be another tedious element of farming sims, where you're required to go to each individual animal and feed them. Instead here you can just go to the silo and click feed all, which was a really nice simple way of doing it. Aside from the crops, early on I also spent a lot of time collecting wood, stone and weeds from the farm and the forest area, as this was a good way to spend my daily energy, especially because these took a lot of hits. After upgrading my tools once, it still took 6 hits to break 1 rock, which is a one-way ticket to a repetitive strain injury. I really think that they need to reduce this. I just feel like it is just unnecessary. It doesn't need to take this many hits to break a rock. Imagine what it's like with just the basic tools. It wasn't good. So now that I have some goods collected, some crops grown, it was then time to delve into opening and running my shop. Now this next part may sound a little bit harsh, but to me this was one of the standout features of the game that I thought might set it apart from other farming sims. So because of that, I did have high expectations. However, I was disappointed. There was no depth to the gameplay here at all. You place what items you want to see on the little pedestals, and then you open the shop and await for people to come in, and then you just click when they want to buy something. Just sell it, there you go, done. Although the customers did come at good speed, it ended up becoming very tedious. I'm going to end up using that word a lot today. I apologize. So much so that when I was actually running my shop, I was also playing Animal Crossing Pocket Camp on my phone, which is not a good sign. When you're playing a game, you should not be playing another game. Occasionally, I was required to do something as the forest folk wanted to negotiate, but this made 0 sense to me and honestly left me so confused, as it was essentially a guessing game. Sometimes people would want to negotiate with you and they would just end up paying the advertised price. Also, when I tried to give them a discount, they refused the item. Who does not want a discount? And then when you go for the higher price, the people then decide to give you a tip on top of that. Are they just made of money? There was just so many kind of contradictory factors in the negotiation that made 0 sense to me. I just didn't understand it. So I was just out of that. And it was annoying because in some days it felt like everyone wanted to negotiate and I got so many wrong in that one day. So it did just get frustrating. Aside from the negotiating, there was really 0 way to influence the pricing of your items you were selling, which again, this seems to me like a very basic shop simulator mechanic that they should have added. I am out here crafting things, I'm making things, but when I went to sell them, sometimes the items that have used like 1 carrot or 2 kind of crops, they actually sold for less money than it was if I was using those individual items to sell. The mind boggles. How that maths makes sense, I do not know. It was also highly infuriating when the forest folk decided that they didn't want to buy an item after a failed negotiation. They did not put it back where they found it. Instead, they put it in a random chest, which then I had to go and collect the items from and then put them back out. But you can't do this while the shop is open. So you have to wait till the end of the day or when your shop is closed to go and grab them. Maybe I'm just being lazy, but my mother taught me to put things back where I found them. Obviously that didn't apply to the forest folk. So overall, the shop simulator element revolve around you standing behind a counter, clicking a few times and waiting for the items to sell out, or you hit the amount of harmony you need for that day, because there is no point having your shop open if you're not earning that harmony. And on the subject of harmony, you might be thinking there must be some complex design behind this. Do they award more harmony depending on the products you sell? It would be logical that milk is worth more than one piece of stone you harvested. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Harmony is calculated by each item you sell, irrespective of what it is. So the huge gameplay flaw here is that if you wanted to, you could essentially harvest trees and rocks to unlock all of the harmony tree quests and kind of rewards and end the game. Obviously, you would miss out on a lot of other gameplay like the farming of the crops and looking after the animals. But to me, this is so poorly thought through. For a player to do something, there should be some form of incentive, and because of this, it did feel like it was severely lacking. I was thinking to myself, why am I planting this particular crop? Why am I doing this? Because everything kind of revolves around that harmony. Yes, you need the money to upgrade things, but that's just kind of to have nice things. It's not really there to enhance the gameplay in any way. So yeah, that felt wrong. Really wrong to me, really poorly designed. There is another way to earn money which doesn't get you harmony, and this is the bulletin board. This is where you can fill the request of the nature spirits, and I thought that here was where they were going to add some more characters to speak to, but until you have unlocked a lot of friendship points, they just kind of stand around the map and then give you one-liners. All of the bulletin board requests did seem to require a lot of resources, particularly crops as well, which when you were trying to run a shop, it did feel a little bit hard to progress. I was working on it slowly when I remembered, but honestly my main kind of priority was running the shop to get the harmony. So that's kind of the key aspects of the story and the gameplay mechanics, and the gameplay loop does, if you haven't have guessed it, consist of farming, collecting resources, selling items at the shop to get harmony, then unlocking new items, and then rinse and repeat. So it is definitely a grind. You might be okay with that, and don't get me wrong, I do love some farm grinding once in a while, but there was very little to excite me about this particular game, and it did end up feeling almost boring. The grindy gameplay was also not helped because of the controls. They were very clunky and hard to manage. The game does recommend that you play with controller, but me and controllers do not get along all that well. So I decided to give it a go on keyboard and mouse. The thing I had the biggest issue with was the inventory. There was a form of quick inventory or like a hotbar, but instead of allowing you to scroll through the hotbar with your mouse scroll, you weren't able to do that. You had to press Q and E, which was so hard to get my head around. I do not know why they did it this way. It felt so clunky and really hard to manage. Moving around as well to get the correct hitbox was also pretty hard, as it's set to right click and you have to be on a specific square, so quite frequently I did end up adapting the way that I was playing, and I just tried to do things in line to avoid the headache of trying to get the box in the right area so that I could target there. I did try on the controller as well just to see how it was. Some of the aspects did feel a little bit smoother, but the hitbox area definitely persisted, and I don't think it was necessarily all that better with the inventory either. On a more positive note, I did not mind the storage system. It was definitely not perfect, and it really could have benefited from a quick transfer, and also the pop-up every time you move something is just very, very unnecessary. However, the chests were placed strategically throughout the map and the storage was unlimited, which is a huge bonus. I also didn't encounter that many bugs playing on PC. Obviously your experience might be different if you're playing on the Switch or console, but for now I will take this as a positive. The one thing that I did kind of encounter, which I think was a bug, kind of actually worked in my favor, where the game allowed me to pay 6,500 for an upgrade on my house, and then it also allowed me to pay 6,500 for a tool upgrade when I only had 8,000. Normally bugs make you worse off as a player, but I think in this case I was a winner. I did also get this kind of odd visual glitch during this chat scene with Tomate, where I think the character was supposed to be holding some tools to kind of demonstrate the action. However, instead they just kind of did some weird arm movements, which were almost a little bit sus. So that was interesting. I also did appreciate the fact that there was like a little crafting bench, and here you could kind of craft a few things, including fencing and pathing, which did come in very handy for preventing spawns kind of encroaching on my crops, which was just getting a little bit annoying. I would have loved for more decorating and crafting options, and I do feel like there was definitely space for this on the map area, because I wasn't going to expand my crops any more than I did, so I'm sad that they didn't capitalize on this a bit more. The last thing I kind of also want to touch on, I thought this was going to be a positive as well, but instead this one left me with more questions than answers, and this is the handbook. So as I was given the introduction and we were going through the tutorial, there was kind of these little pop-ups, which I thought would be great. This means that I can refer back to it if I need a little bit of help. In practice though, this was not great, as most of the time the information contained here was not all that accurate or did not actually tell you how to do the thing. It definitely did not tell you what keys to press, which I think if you had missed a bit of dialogue is very important and can leave players more confused than not, basically. So I think if you're going to do something like this, it needs to be really clear and really helpful, and I just don't think this was, unfortunately. So there are the key points that I wanted to cover, and I just want to say that going into playing this game, I honestly thought this review would be a lot more positive, and I'm sad that it's kind of turned out the way that it has. Unfortunately, I will just say that I was honestly super looking forward to the game. I thought that this could be like a really nice farming sim, and it would have that shop element, which I was very excited for, and I thought, oh, this could be something fresh. However, it just really hasn't turned out that way, and in the end I think the game has just ended up lacking a lot of depth, and it did feel very tedious, and there was nothing to kind of break that monotony. So I think had they added in something like fishing, exploring, bug catching, something like that we've seen in other life sims, that might have kind of livened up the gameplay a little bit. I also think that the game devs needed to spend a little bit more time planning out the harmony side of things, because that just felt a little bit lackluster to me. They've definitely felt like they've taken kind of the easy route with that. I would have much rather kind of the idea of donating crops or something like that, or at least give it more of an incentive for you to go through and unlock those different crops, because it didn't really feel like it when I was playing it at all. I also think the shop needed to be more of like a standout feature. Again, you don't want to just be stuck behind a counter when you're playing Shop Simulator like that. I think that there could have just been so much more they could have done with it. I don't want to draw the comparison to Amber Isle, but that definitely they could have learned from Amber Isle with the way that you can run around, clean things. You can actually interact more with customers as well, because that negotiation kind of aspect of the game was definitely not it at all. And I also think that they maybe just needed to work on making the game a little bit less grindy, especially when it comes to watering the crops. I think that would have made a difference, not a huge difference, as I just don't know if the content's there overall, but those are kind of the key areas where I think that if they had kind of taken a bit more time, then it would have just improved the overall experience. From what I've played so far, I don't really feel that I can recommend it. I'm not going to give it an out of 10 score rating, because I don't think that's necessarily fair with my current feelings on the game. I just am really disheartened by it. I was really excited, and I think maybe that's why I'm a little bit more gutted as to the game not delivering. But hey, let me know what you think about this game. Have you bought it, or did you try the demo? Let me know in the comments what you think about it. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon, hopefully with a more positive video. Bye bye.